And we're back for another week of GT4 Fixed. So this week we're going into week 10. We're going to be at Red Bull Ring, the full circuit. So definitely some major talking points here. The Red Bull Ring is consisted of a lot of long sweepers or heavy braking zones and sharp turns. We're going to go over, of course, each corner, but the theme is going to be rotation for all of our heavy braking zones into our tight corners. And then for a lot of our long sweepers, especially in the Porsche, but this goes the same for all the other GT4s as well, we want to be really precise, really patient coming through these sweepers. So we've talked about this quite a bit in our previous lap guides. It's going to be especially important here because the Red Bull Ring only has so many corners. Your exits just mean so much here. So with that being said, we'll hop right into our reference lap. So our reference lap is going to be a 1:36.3. So coming down the start-finish straight, of course we have a right-hander coming uphill. So it's important to note that this is uphill. The car will be pushing into the surface ever so slightly. The elevation gain here isn't extreme. It's not that aggressive, but it will help with some mechanical grip. We can brake a little bit later. So here we're looking for the 100 board or this white line. That's going to be our braking reference. Now, to go over incident points, we of course want to open this corner up as much as possible. Our right side tires cannot go any farther past our white line. Anything past that, even getting onto the rumble strips, more so the left side tires getting too far over to the left, that's going to run risk of that incident point. So we're going to downshift from 5th gear down to 3rd. We're going to get a relatively early turn in here. Now this is right on the limit of catching an incident point. Our left side tires are still just ever so slightly on that white line at apex. If our left side tires get onto the candy cane curbs, that's going to be an off track as well. We want to get on the throttle super early. The sooner we get on throttle, the more speed we're going to carry down the straight. Just one of the fundamentals, but it's especially tricky to nail that every single tight corner here. Now, as far as off tracks, I went a little far here. Somehow went without getting an off track. Try to keep your left side tires either right on top or right on the back side of this curbing. Now, of course, because it's a little bit of a mountain, we can get our tires on the left side of this curb. Anything farther than that, though, really is going to be risking that off track. If you've driven Red Bull Ring before, of course everybody's familiar with all the jockeying down this straight. So be careful. Get your corner and your passes set up really nicely here. We want a really good run coming out of turn 3, I think it is technically. So right before the 100 board again, or this white line, that's going to be our braking reference once again. We're going to use fairly moderate brake pressure. It's between about 60 and 70%. Once again, right side tires on the white line, and this is right on the limit. Again, how I didn't get an off track here is a little bit beyond me, but this is the limit. We're going to downshift all the way into 2nd in the Porsche. We want to get a pretty early turn in. Now, the elevation and a little bit of the camber is pretty awkward through here. So once we get into the corner, we're going to want to straighten up our steering wheel pretty early. If you hang on to this steering angle, you're going to have a little bit of oversteer. The car's going to be pretty bound up. You're going to slide a little bit of the tire, and you're just overall not going to get a good exit. So we actually see my car gets a little sideways there. Now once again, looking over the off tracks, we're right on the limit here. We can see that left side tire on the left side of this yellow curbing, so that will be our limit. Coming up to turn 4, we're going to try to abuse a little bit of this candy cane curbing to open up this next corner. We're once again going to find that 100 board and brake just before it for our reference. We're also going to downshift here into second, so fifth into second gear. We can get our right side tires just about on top of this curbing. If your left side tires are starting to get on the curbing, I found, at least in the fixed setup, that the car is a little jumpy. It is quite unsettled coming through here. So right side tires on, left side tires on the track. Early throttle application. We can track out pretty far here. Once again, the limit will be your right side tires getting all the way on top of that curb. Now moving into our long sweepers, the 50 board is going to be my reference for my brake application and our turn-in. Now we're going to use about a medium 50% peak pressure initially, and then we want to bleed off. This is a really long sweeper, and it's also an increasing radius. We're going to delay our downshift until about halfway between our turn-in point to the curbing. So if we take a step back here, there's a blip in here somewhere. Ah, there it is. So there's our blip for our downshift, so we can see kind of whereabouts we are in the corner. Now it's really important to delay this downshift because it's downhill. The car's automatically going to want to push and kind of go off to our right hand side here. So if we delay this third gear downshift, this is going to help with rotation, get the car pointed in the right direction coming into the corner. Now I do miss a little bit of the apex here. Ideally, we want to get our left side tires right on top of this. Coming into our next corner, it's going to be a light brake pressure. We're going to trail all the way into the corner with, again, a late downshift. That's going to be our theme for these sweeper corners. We want to get a later downshift into that corner to help with mid-corner rotation. We can use our apex curbing here as a little bit of a reference point. Once we touch here, you should be safe to get back on throttle. Anything before is probably a little bit too early. You're going to risk going a little bit too far to the right on exit, or even, at worst case, going into the gravel. So, of course, that's not going to be beneficial for any battles there. On exit, our left side tires can actually get on top of our candy cane curbing here. They cannot go onto the green, or your right side tires cannot touch the gravel themselves. And then coming up to the last two corners, this is a definitely very tricky section to get the timing down for. So we're going to look for a 50 board. We're going to start braking right before it. Downshift into fourth gear, and we want to get a fairly early turn in here. Right side tires on top of the curbing. And this is where the timing starts to get tricky. There's not a great reference as to when you're going to get back on throttle. So you're going to have to play with a little bit of the timing. Our right side tires can get on top of the red and white curbing here. Anything farther than that, we will be looking at an off track here as well. So that's where that timing gets really awkward. And to back it up just a smidge, so we want to start braking quite a few car lengths before the end of our red and white patch here. This is an awkward spot to find any references as well. Now, something we can do is try to find something in the far distance, pit lane entrance, these grandstands, maybe the red staircase area in there, and find where it's intersecting with your A pillar or where it might be in your frame of field of view. My reference has been distance to the end of this red and white painted patch here. We're going to downshift from fourth into third. We're going to trail brake fairly aggressively as we start to turn in. We actually want to get a pretty early turn in for this corner as well. You can abuse quite a bit of the apex here. Again, left side tires on our white line any farther to the right, and you will be risking the off track. And somehow this was also not an incident point. Right side tires really can't go any farther past the red and white curbing here. Anything farther, like I said, will be an off track. Now we're going to move into our full pace lap. So one thing I also additionally want to note, I didn't talk about it while we were going over the lap itself, but coming into this left-hand sweeper, be very cautious with the amount of brake pressure you're applying at turn-in, especially if you're running a low brake bias. This exact situation is what that can lead to, and we definitely don't want that mid-race. So feel out that brake bias, see what feels best for you. So be very cautious through here, especially on lap 1. That's going to be our lap guide this week for Red Bull Ring. The majority of your practice really should be a lot of racecraft, figuring out what moves will work, what moves won't work, where to position your car, and really just how to get those good exits, especially out of turns 1 and 3. Those are going to be extremely, extremely important. The other thing to note, your lap times will increase during your actual race. Draft is extremely important here. If you run the sports car challenge and any of the open setups, also being mindful that the wing is going to be much lower than the fixed setup. There's so much straight line speed to gain here from that. That's going to be where most of your setups are headed. So keep an eye out for that. Otherwise, I wish you guys the best of luck in officials, and we'll see you next week.